to try and have any real effect. I mean, it's not just about appearing in court and winning cases anymore. It's about winning for the client, and that means providing that client with avenues to have a better existence. My name's Avery Brown. I'm a field officer with the Aboriginal Legal Service in Grafton, in the northern zone. I was with the ALS from, I think, 1982, I think it was, when I attended University of New South Wales and did a course for field officers. Sess Patton was my, I suppose, mentor in those days. Sess was around with the ALS when it first started, and he was very active in how he went about the business with the ALS, and I admired Sess for what he did, and I in turn wanted to do something like that. And Sess finally got me a start with the ALS back then, and I think I worked with the ALS for 14 and a half years before I left for a short time, and then I've been back with the ALS now for, I think, 5 years this August. So I've been there almost 19 and a half, going on 20 years. I'm still stationed in Grafton, and the court, or my role, has changed a lot from way back then up until the present. I've worked with a lot of very good solicitors. John McKenzie for one. John was with me in the 80s. I worked with Philip Siegel, who's now a barrister. I worked alongside people like Steve Norrish, Martin Sides, and of course Bob Belair and Bruce Miles. I've had the experience of working with some of the best that the ALS has had either on board or working for us. All different styles in how they went about their work. I know Bruce Miles was the most, I suppose, entertaining solicitor or barrister, I suppose, in them days that I worked with, in how he went about his business and how he used to dress in his light blue safari suit, which he always wore. Bruce was a person that took on cases for no pay. He really had his heart in the right place, and for Aboriginal people, Bruce Miles was certainly one of the best that I have seen. John McKenzie, he was, I suppose, a younger solicitor in them days. I wasn't real keen on his style of music, but he owned the car, so I'm just not too sure what it was, but it was stuff that I don't think I'd heard of, because I'm, being an Aboriginal person and from the bush, mainly a country in Western, but yeah, John had his own style and he owned the car, so his tapes were the one we played. Files in them days were stored in the boot of the car because you didn't know where you were going or which court you were going to, so you just threw your files in the boot, and that was your filing cabinet. Left before the office started or opened, and home late at night. I remember one particular incident. Bernard Brassel, who was working at Grafton in them days, we had to go to Moree, and I think Bernard and I left at 5 in the morning. The magistrate sat through the whole day with a half hour for lunch, and we left there at 6 that night. So in them days there was a lot of travel. It was really hard work because there was no comfort of motels in them days, and I think field officers' roles back in those days were a lot different to what it is today. And I remember when I first started, we used to do mentions and adjournments, and in some instances bail applications, because the areas were that huge, and the solicitors, the courts that we had often sat on the same day. So it would often be the case where the solicitor would go one way and the field officer would go the other. So I gained a lot of practical experience, I suppose, in them early days from doing bail applications and mentions and adjournments and so forth. I mentioned some matters in the district court when I worked with Bob Belair. Bob was a wonderful person as well as a wonderful barrister. On the times that he'd come up to the country, either Coffs Harbour or Grafton, Bob would stay with us, and in them days we had about 9 or 10 kids running around the house, and all you'd see were kids running through the hallway with Bob's barrister's wig on their head. And I would say to the kids, put that away, put that away, it's you're not allowed to touch that. And Bob would say, oh, let them go, they're only kids. So Bob was a great person, and Bob always made sure that the judge was aware who I was. He would ask the judge if I could sit beside Bob at the bar table, which I did on many occasions. Community-wise, assess pattern was my main motivator. I did a lot of stuff with Lyle Munro Jr., Billy Craigie, Bobby Merritt, Paul Coe. They were the core group that were the activists, I suppose, for Aboriginal people in Sydney. And I tried to emulate those persons when I'd go back to the bush. I suppose back in the old days, when someone would get locked up, I would be called, be it 1 o'clock in the morning, 5 o'clock in the morning, and I would attend the police station. Now we have a custody notification line where there's solicitors rostered on 24 hours. The more transparent and professional we are, the better service we can deliver to the community. I'm of the opinion that those persons in the community that are dysfunctional and have substance abuse problems have those problems for reasons. A lot of them don't choose to be like that. Us as advocates on their behalf need to be aware of what those problems are, of what the underlying issues are, and then being able to, or have the confidence and the qualifications and the knowledge to go ahead with those referrals and make sure that things are put in place to try and eliminate that recidivist happening again. We don't want to say to a client, well, you got a good decision today, only to say the same thing to him again 2 weeks down the track. At the end of the day, it's not about winning at court. It's about what follows on after. What is the causation of these problems for these people? Why are they in the situation that they're in? We're employed to find those solutions. To work at the ALS, you have to want to work there because it's a difficult job, and we need persons that have empathy and compassion for community to be in the ALS, to try and have any real effect. I mean, it's not just about appearing in court and winning cases anymore. It's about winning for the client, and that means providing that client with avenues to have a better existence. It's a difficult job, but it's one I wouldn't swap. And I hope we can go forward from here.